Welcome to Gold Derby's Meet the Experts documentary film panel. I'm Denton Davidson, and I'm here with Margaret Brown, director of the documentary Descendant on Netflix, Sara Dosa, director of Nat Geo's Fire of Love, Alex Pritz, director of Nat Geo's The Territory, and Trevor Frost and Melissa Lesh, directors of the Amazon Prime documentary Wildcat. First of all, I'm thrilled you could all join me today, and I just want to ask each of you, what excites you the most about being part of documentary filmmaking, especially in this day and age where there's so much access, there's so many ways people can watch documentaries. What excites you about being a documentary filmmaker? And I'll start with Margaret.
I like the adrenaline of getting up every day and not knowing what's going to happen. That's definitely why I do doc and not narrative, because it's just like exciting to figure things out on the fly. And also, I really love my team. I love my cinematographers, the sound people I work with, the producers, the editors. It's like being part of a traveling circus. That's not extractive and horrible.
Do you keep that same team with you as you move from one film to the next?
I try. I'm doing a new show right now, and I brought everybody over from Descendant.
Okay. Alex, how about you?
I'm excited by the kind of democratization of filmmaking itself. The way that we made this film in a sort of participatory, collaborative nature, I don't think would have been possible if we were shooting on film, or at least the cost of it would have been so high that it would have felt like a huge risk, to hand over the camera and, the cost of film and all this stuff. But I think the way that films are getting made is changing, and I'm excited to be part of that.
And Sara?
I absolutely echo what Margaret and Alex just said in terms of the unpredictability and the democratization of the craft, for sure. I think for me too, I love how kind of serendipity is a medium for documentary. I feel like it primes my mind to seek out story and meaning in the everyday. And for me, that's it's just such an energizing way to live. I feel like it just it focuses my eye on beauty, on interconnectivity, on things like that oftentimes when we're met with such a turbulent and uncertain and bleak world, I feel like that gives me a sense of hope and makes me feel kind of glued to my collaborators, the people in the films, and ideas and stories that feel like a salve and meaningful to me too.
And Melissa and Trevor?
Yeah, I think for me, I learned on this is our first feature film, so it's been a total crash course journey of learning. And I think with this one in particular, I realized how kind of potentially healing the process of documentary filmmaking can be, and it very reflective. And so with this film, what you see on screen, you don't see us on screen, that was a deliberate choice in the edit. We're not characters, but our journeys, our paths, our experiences are very much a part of this story and something that we explored deeply in the making of this film. And so I think just the art of making a documentary, not only are you kind of, expanding yourself, putting yourself in these unpredictable situations where you have to make on the fly decisions and connections and all those things, but I think the larger craft can be really interesting moments of deep reflection, and in a way therapy. For me, this movie, the kind of conversations that I was having with Samantha were things that I'd never talked about in my entire life from when I was a child, and she similarly was able to do the same. And so it's kind of an excuse to go really, really deep with each other, I hope, and just tap into some things that, maybe we need to start talking about.
Yeah. And for me, I would expand on what Melissa was saying, and that before I made this film, I really thought of my depression and anxiety as just something that was bad, and I wished that it would go away. And if there was a pill that could get rid of it, I would take it. And I take medicine today for my depression. And it does help me. So I'm not advocating that, someone doesn't use it if it's helpful. But one of the things that I learned through the making of this film is that I guess I started to see the strengths in what I saw as a weakness before. And, you know, you hear people like Greta Thunberg, the climate activist, talking about her Asperger's as a superpower. And so I often ask myself, you know, because I have depression and anxiety, does it allow me to see the world in a different way? And I think that is true. And it has allowed me to, you know, find this story and like embrace people in a way that someone that isn't struggling with depression wouldn't. And so I've really started to try to find the positives in you know, my depression and anxiety, and so that's something that I've learned through the process of making this film. And then also, of course, as everyone else has said, is working with a team is great, because I come from the still photography background where you're working by yourself for like, you know, 4 or 5 months in the field, and it's incredibly lonely, and there's no editing process really. So it's wonderful to actually have other people to, you know, collaborate with and talk to.
What documentary or nonfiction film had a profound impact on you and, you know, sort of influenced you to go into documentary filmmaking? I remember for me, like one of the first documentaries I probably saw was Roger and Me. I think that when I was younger, that's the first one that I can remember seeing. Sara, how about you? Is there a documentary that you vividly remember that sort of moved you in that direction?
Yeah, there's so many, but the first one that comes to mind, which some people might not even call a documentary, but rather an experimental film, is Chris Marker's Sans Soleil, which is just a gorgeous kind of collage and epistemological, epistolary conversation between people, kind of narrated, and these letters that are being shared across time and space. It was so mesmerizing to me. A dear friend of mine called it a kind of almost like an alien anthropology, you know, some sort of observation of our world and interpreting imagery and interpreting these ideas of time and space and meaning. But it really affected me. It showed me a different kind of storytelling, I think, than and showed what was possible in terms of the form for nonfiction. And so that's one that I think will always stick with me as a pivotal film in my life, and thinking about what the nonfiction form could possibly be.
Margaret, how about you?
I think something that, like, I mean, I have a few. I think like Joshua Oppenheimer's films, The Look of Silence and The Act of Killing, like I like walked out after and was like, I see the world totally different. So I think those, but then also Harlan County, USA, I think is a good rewatch whenever you want to be inspired about how to, you know, really capture some kind of essence.
And Melissa and Trevor.
For me, it would be Time by Garrett Bradley. I watched that film and couldn't figure out how she made it, you know, and I say that in a good way. Like it occurred to me that I would never be able to make a film as good as that. It was just so wonderful and lovely and done like a poem, but still told a really wonderful story at the same time. So that's a film that I remember watching and being changed afterwards. I
watched as a kid, very young kid, I remember watching Microcosmos, 1996 35 millimeter film. It's a French film, and it sucks you into the insect world in a way that even BBC and like Planet Earth still today struggle to compete with, I think. You know, the drama of nature, the as the rain drops, you know, the ants are flying, and this love affair between these two snails, to opera music. I mean, it's like out of this world, but it's very much of this world, obviously. That I remember being really young and watching that and just thinking, you know, I've always just been drawn to wild places and wild animals, and that's where I find peace and you know, my truest sense of self. And so I think that film sparked this, you know, film can be extremely powerful, can embed you in these places. So that was very early on. And I think like more recently, a film that we talked about a lot in the making of this movie was Minding the Gap. And Joshua Altman, one of our producers on the film, edited that, and with Bing Liu. And you know, these kind of narratives that you think it's about one thing, but really it's about something else. And it takes you on these journeys, you know, character-driven journeys that seem, quite simple, but when you start unpacking the layers, can unveiled so much more. That was kind of a guiding force in many ways for Wildcat.
Alex, what were some of your favorite documentaries?
I was going to say the same as Margaret. I adore Joshua Oppenheim's work. And yeah, the Look of Silence and the Act of Killing both blew open my understanding of what documentaries can do and what they can be capable of. These Birds Walk, a film by Omar Malik. I love his cinematography. As like a director cinematographer, that just blew open what I thought a camera could do in a documentary setting. One of our executive producers, Dan Fung Dennis, made this amazing, horrific war film called Hell and Back Again. One of the first films shot on a 5D, an SLR, and he had a steady cam the whole time, moving the camera in these really inventive ways. But yeah, there are tons and tons of films, but those are a couple.
And as documentary filmmakers, you get so wrapped up in the subjects that you're working on. I'm curious to know, for each of the films that you've done, what's the hardest to let go of? You make that final edit, that final cut. What still sticks with you that you just can't let go about these films? Alex, let's start off with you.
Sorry, you mean the films that we just mentioned?
No, with the territory, once you've wrapped up that film and you've made your final edits and cuts, what's the hardest for you to let go?
Oh my gosh,
it's over.
Do we ever let go?
I'm rewriting my log line right now. I'm not kidding. We're working on a new version of that. We opened up the film after Sundance, which was a huge gift. To be able to, I genuinely had no expectation that we would get into Sundance. It was a wonderful surprise. And so we raced to finish the film, but there were a lot of things left that I still wanted to include. And so we reopened the edit, redid the sound mix, redid the score, and we're able to keep shifting things all the way up until our theatrical release. And so I think the sound and the score for me was a huge component of the storytelling in our film. Our composer, Katia Mihalova, traveled with me to Brazil to record the sounds of the rainforest, and then use those instrumentally in her score and really weave the sound design, the score, the ambiences all together into this really immersive version of the rainforest. And getting that right, having the rainforest feel like home, have it feel invited rather than this sort of harsh, noise on noise on noise that you often feel I find in kind of nature and science docs about the rainforest. All of that is just such a balancing act, and working with a big team, directors, editors, sound designer, composer, and finding that balance is something that, you could spend years on, I think.
Sara, how about you? What's the hardest for you to just say, okay, I've got to walk away from this?
It's different on every film I've worked on. I think each one has its own particularities. For Fire of Love, it was the narration. We were, to borrow a word from my grandmother, fetentiling with the narration to the very, very final phases. At the very beginning, we didn't imagine we would use narration for Fire of Love. We wanted it to just be Katya and Maurice's footage and their words, but to tell a character-driven love story, which we felt like was the most true kind of presentation of their life's work, we needed a different narrative vehicle for telling that, since the archive was actually tremendously limited and often didn't include sound. So that's why we ended up using narration. But we were truly, in the very final day of the sound edit, we were tweaking words here and there. We were taking things out, adding things in. It was such a hard balance between trying to prompt the kind of questions we wanted the narrator to plant in the minds of the audience, but also trying to give space for their imagery and their own words. So still, when I watch the film, I'm like, maybe we should have taken that out, or oops, we maybe needed one more thing there. I'm really grateful for Miranda July's collaboration with us on the narration, and I think she did a very good job, but it's still something that it's hard for me to let go.
And Margaret, how about you with Descendant?
I have not let go. We're still doing, I'm still deeply involved with the community. We're still, we have a call right after this, actually, for work that there's an impact campaign that Participant and Netflix is doing with us. And so, no, I'm still like actively involved in all that. So it was actually great because when we finished, we were so like close. Everyone was so close. I was talking about my collaborators behind the camera, but I was also we made the film over such a long time, and the people in the movie are definitely like had a lot of weigh in on. I would ask them like, what do you think? I would show them scenes and stuff. So it's like particularly close process. And we just had the premiere in Mobile like 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm still like deeply involved in the community and what they're doing as activists. So it's been great. Like I love that it still goes on.
And Melissa and Trevor, how about you and your work on Wildcat?
Trevor knows that I had a very hard time letting go of pretty much everything in the edit. I was one of the lead editors on the film, and when you're so close to the story for so long, it just weaves itself into your being, you know. And so at the end, when there was deadlines and it was like, all right, this is picture lock, you're done, you know, hands off. I think they had to like actually pry me from I was editing like 16-hour days, like in the end there, and just, you know, you kind of just go into these trances. So that said, so I think from an actual like technical standpoint, one thing that still kind of I hold in my heart is the fact that we will never see all of Harry's footage. We had over 1,000 hours of footage, and we had an incredible team member, Mallory Bracken, who's also here in Virginia with us, logging everything meticulously. So every minute of every footage was logged by, you know, about 16 different categories that you could think of, and helped us distill all of that, because, you know, he was rolling all the time with Keanu and his time in the rainforest. So there's footage that, you know, gems, I'm sure that I'll just have never seen. So have to let go of that. But I think at this point, I've fully surrendered with, you know, what the film is, and I wouldn't change a single thing. And it feels really good to say that.
One of the you know, few themes in our film is I would say the art of letting go. You know, we see Harry having to learn to let go of Keanu and leave him in the forest and go back home. And we see Sam having to learn to let go of Harry. And so it's a cycle of letting go. And, you know, one of the things that I think many people do in life is they don't let go soon enough, and that can, you know, do damage. And not having been exposed to this level of trauma before and being completely unprepared for it, going into making this film, I, you know, am actually like really excited about letting go of this film and moving on to something else. As much as enjoyable as an experience as it was, there were a lot of moments where it was just me and Harry, or just me, Harry, and Samantha down there, and things were really starting to, you know, fall apart in their relationship, and Harry was really struggling. And as I said, I was, you know, unequipped to deal with a lot of these situations. And I think most of us are, because we grow up and we're taught mathematics and we're taught reading comprehension and we're taught how to write, but like where are the classes on conflict resolution and dealing with grief and loss? And, you know, we're not taught any of those things. And so as adults, we're just thrust out into the world and expected to kind of handle all of this stuff without any prep at all. And so when I was there and Harry was struggling in particular, you know, it took a real toll on me. So as much as I, you know, love them both dearly and look forward to seeing what they do in the future for conservation, I'm personally excited to let go and move on.
Well, it's a great note to end on, and I want to thank each of you for joining me today. Congratulations on such wonderful documentary films. Everyone go check out Descendant on Netflix, Fire of Love from Nat Geo, The Territory from Nat Geo, and Wildcat from Amazon Prime. Thanks again for joining me.